What's going on, great people in the world? It's your guy, Nicholas Wilcox, your host here, alongside my co-host, my partner in crime, my cousin from another mother, my brother from another mother, Johnny. Say what's up to the great people.
What's up? What's up? Good morning. Happy halfway week 9. It's gonna be a fun one. Gonna be pretty weird today. So I'm already in the vibes. Looking forward already, man. So what's up, y'all?
I think me and Johnny switched roles this week. He's SpongeBob, I'm Squidward. Like, I'm not as optimistic about this. Like,
man, I love it.
Going on. I'm usually the one that's more upbeat, but I'm like, I'm coming in with a little bit more pessimism this week. But we got your week 9, the fantasy football show in the house. We got your DFS slates. You know, we got your props, we got your bets, we got your picks, and your start and sits. It's going to be a great week, but honestly, I'm looking at all my teams, look at even the DFS side of things, and I'm like, man, I got to make some tough decisions.
Yeah.
Got to help you guys. Got to help you guys make some money as well. So, Johnny, what's on your mind starting off overall for this slate of games and going overall? Like you said, we're a halfway point.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to kind of keep some things in perspective, but also changing with the tide. So where do you find yourself at the moment?
This week, man, it's really unique. We were already kind of talking about it. I think now we're starting to get a lot of our players back that like we were really high on back in August. Cooper Kupp is back. CMC potentially, in the next week or two will be coming back to us. I think I even seen something about Isaiah Pacheco a little bit later on. So it's a weird time, right? Like if you've been able to stand tall and maintain and have those players come back, like it's a great time. But I think we're at a place now where we're looking at teams like the Dolphins, the Dallas Cowboys, the Cincinnati Bengals, those type of teams right now. They are officially fighting for their life right now. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they show up or if they don't show up. Minnesota Vikings, my man Kevin O'Connell, they've kind of calmed down a little bit, but I think they're going to get things back on track. But it's just a really unique week because there isn't a lot of games where you can definitively say that this team is better than that team and that these games are locks. There maybe it's 3 or 4 games on the slate where you can be like, all right, like I'm pretty positive that they are going to win, but the rest of the games, it's a 50-50 crapshoot, and we're here to help you out with that today, man.
Yeah, for sure. There's just some spots where we're looking a little weird in terms of just the betting side of things, and then in terms from your DFS side of things, your season-long stuff. Like this is just a week where it's like a lot of things can go really hairy. I feel this week. This is like one of those weeks where we always have like one of those weird outlier weeks.
Yeah.
I'm saying when the NFL season comes around, this could be one of those weeks where it's like players that were supposed to perform didn't, and then players that came out of the woodwork all of a sudden scored, and then we could be seeing a lot of low scoring totals potentially. So there's a couple of games we'll definitely highlight, but there's other games where it's just a clear stay away, unless we get some crazy more news in the next hour or so. But without further ado, folks, we're getting right into it. We're gonna go to a division matchup. We're gonna go to Commanders at the Giants. Commanders are 6-2 and wowing the league right now. They are a 4-point favorite on the road going into New York, New Jersey. Over-under is 44.5. Game starts at 1 p.m. We know Tyrone Tracy's playing for the Giants. He is clear for concussion protocol. That's bad news for your boy Devin Singletary. We still don't know the status of Brian Robinson because they made a practice squad move late yesterday. So that might tell that Brian Robinson may be in, might be out. Who knows? But in terms of the betting line, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, the Commanders won this matchup earlier in the year, but it was really a back-and-forth field goal matchup to the end where Seibert kicks it at the end of the game for the Commanders. And that was at their place. Now they're traveling. Now they're getting 4 points in a road. We know the Commanders so far this season through the first 8 games have been playing a lot better. Jaden Daniels looking like a rookie phenomenon of the next 10 years, of the next decade. In terms of this game, there's a couple of angles I definitely like in this matchup. It could be a sneaky 44.5 over under because these teams definitely know each other from overall. But man, what do you say to this game, Johnny, overall?
Like this is a game that I was talking about it a little bit earlier in the week, man, with one of my coworkers, and it's like it's the line's only 4, and like, do I have a blind spot for the Giants? I know I've talked about it. The Giants have been playing teams tough over the last handful of weeks. They played Pittsburgh tough on Monday night. Obviously, they played Cincinnati tough on Sunday Night Football a few weeks ago. But it seems like the way the Commanders are playing, that this line should be even more. I'll definitely take the Commanders and the 4 points. I do agree with you as far as like the over-under, that this is a sneaky 44. But like for me, like just some players that like from a DFS side of things that like I'm really interested in that aren't getting a lot of love is Tyrone Tracy, man. He's the guy. Like he's the guy. And yeah, I was on Singletary earlier in the year for sure, but I also have Tracy on my Scott Fish Bowl 14 team. That's like literally the worst team that I own. Mostly in part to your boy Devontae Adams and Anthony Richardson, which that's another subject for another day. So I guess I'll switch gears and get grumpy for a second. But yeah, Tyrone Tracy and then Malik Neighbors.
Positive one today, not
yeah. Well, we're hitting on some sore spots for me. But then obviously Malik Neighbors. I think this is could definitely be a really a get back spot for him, a bounce back spot. So I wouldn't be surprised like if the Giants are able to help cover this number. I think we know the Commanders will be able to move the football. There should be no question on that right there. And even from a DFS side of things, I didn't play a lot of lineups this week because I've been getting absolutely crushed in college football and NBA. We were messaging about that, but I even contemplated even running Daniel Jones in one of the few DFS lineups that I put out today, just because they're more likely than not, they're going to be playing from behind. So that's just a really long-winded way of me to say that I like the over. I like the Commanders. I like Tyrone Tracy. I think this is one of the few weeks, like if you can construct your roster the correct way, you can get to Jaden Daniels and you don't have a lot of ownership there. Same thing with Terry McLaurin. And, we're waiting on the Brian Robinson Jr. information so we can plan accordingly to that. But this is a game I got the over, and I'll take the Commanders as well in the points.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, what I think about this game is that we've seen time and time again the Giants keep things a little bit more closer at times. But I definitely agree with you. I'm taking Commanders in the points. And taking the over. I think we've seen Washington be in these weird game strips where we're like earlier on in the year, especially if you remember the Cardinals game, where it was like we're kind of going back and forth on, like where I think they were a 3-point dog on the road going to Arizona early on in the year. And we were kind of wondering if they were going to clear that team total over the game. I just think we've seen Commanders too many times in matchups where they've not only cleared their team totals, they've also pretty much carried the over under in some of these overs. So I think I'm going to take Commanders over with the points. And I think Jaden Daniels is set up for another game that's going to be pretty stellar, especially if the Giants can't compete offensively. Giants are going to have to find ways to score. So I think Daniel Jones is very smart for a DFS side of things, because in the range that he's going, it's like Trevor Lawrence, it's Drake May, stuff like that. On DraftKings, it just makes perfect sense. There's going to be no ownership on a guy that still has some rushing upside. When you talk about Daniel Jones, he will run the ball every once in a while still. The Giants got to compete offensively, and the only way I think they know how is Daniel Jones and finding Tyrone Tracy and Neighbors. So I think I'm going to start Tyrone Tracy and C. Long with a lot of confidence because he clearly is the number one back in that backfield. But moving on to the Dolphins-Bills game. Man. I don't know, man. Dolphins 2-5, getting 6.5 on the road, going to Buffalo. They are 6-2 on the season, and it's a little shocking that Buffalo is actually 6-2 in a year, but I digress. They're running away with the division. They are in play when it comes to being a Super Bowl contender at the moment. The over-under is 49.5. It's one way or another in this game. And it's usually the Buffalo side, where it's like Buffalo comes in and just beats and just just bum rushes the Dolphins and just leaves them out for dead most times in these matchups. My question for you, Johnny, is there any way the Dolphins can find themselves winning this potential matchup, covering the point spread? Are you expecting a bigger Miami matchup, even though they're going into Buffalo? Or is this more of the same that we've seen over the last 2 years of Buffalo and them just, again, bum rushing them and beating them down, especially earlier on in the year? That was the same game, too, left the game. What do you say?
This is one of those games for me that, like I was talking about, where essentially if you're the Dolphins, if you lose this game, your chances at the division are pretty much out the window. So I like for me, like I actually like the Dolphins and the points in this game. I like the Dolphins and the points. I just think we should definitely see a better version of this team than what we've seen. And like the Dolphins, like the thing with them is like we don't like, do we really know who they are? Like, do we really know who they are? Like, yes, the Bills have beat the Dolphins, but also too, like they've beaten teams that aren't very good, right? So like that's the other element.
Well, okay, question for you.
Yeah.
Seattle, how do you view them?
Well, I think at one point we were like, all right, like they're good. And then you and I both were like, they're frauds. They're frauds. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
That's where the perception comes in too.
Right, right. So like I just
did it shock me that Buffalo beat them down last week? Not really. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Because it was just, again, Seattle's been a competitive team, but from a metric standpoint, but in terms of how the eye test goes, Seattle's not a complete team like that. So that's why I asked the question.
Yeah, and then like I think like another interesting piece like is Buffalo is 7th in receiving yards allowed. So I think like Tyreek Hill hasn't had that game yet, and like I think today could be one of those days where he could have that game. Yeah, you and me both, brother. You and me both, brother. You and me both. But like, right, I think like one of the biggest things, right, is like sometimes like as fantasy people, sometimes we get really engulfed in like, oh man, like the matchups, like the data. But then like we also have to look at it from like the basement side of things where it's like, yo, like this is a football matchup, and this is a matchup where the Miami Dolphins are going to need their best players to play their best game. So like for me, man, like Tyreek Hill is somebody, he's 7,300, I believe, on DraftKings. You know, guys like him, man, like you're probably not going to be able to get him at that price very often. And Tua was on the field as well. And I think your boy Devon Achane is maybe 6,700 and some change or something. I have to look, but like I'm going back to the well on these guys for sure for me. And then like I think Amari Cooper is questionable with a wrist injury. Keon Coleman, man, he's another guy, man. Like he's came out, he's balled the last couple of weeks. So that's really good to see if you're a Buffalo Bills fan. James Cook has been running the ball fantastically. I'm just like I think for me the biggest takeaway from this game here, and it may completely sway how I feel about the Bills, because like I've been back and forth on them. Like the first 2 or 3 weeks, like you watching all 22, I'm like, yo, like they are flying around on defense, and then they get beat. And then they play the Texans. And it's like, what the hell just happened here, right? And, like, for me, I think this is really a game that, like, this game right here could really cement the fact that, yo, the Buffalo Bills are for real and they can handle a potent offense. Defensively, they can handle a potent offense. But, like, I just feel like we talked about it earlier, this is one of those weeks, man, where it's like, expect upsets. This is where 8, 9, 10, 11, this is where some of those 2 and 5 teams and 3 and 4 or whatever, like they're able to pull off wins. So I wouldn't be shocked with that. And then the other thing I think is interesting too, as well, is Miami 31st in rushing touchdowns allowed. So that's been one of the staples for that's been one of the
cooking like 3 weeks, three leagues this week.
Yeah, that's been one of the staples for the Buffalo Bills. Is that right there? So like, I think there's definitely more than a few things. And then my last piece, and I'll stop rambling, is like we know what Josh Allen is, right? With Josh Allen, also he finally threw an interception for the first time in like 300 and something attempts, right? Do we get some more turnovers here today, man? But yeah, I like the Dolphins, man. Like I like the Dolphins and the points straight up. Obviously, I take the Bills, but I do expect the Dolphins to be able to keep this game close. And as far as the over under, the number's high when you look at it, But I think also too, man, like you have two offenses that are more than capable of putting up points on the board. I'm probably gonna. I'd probably mess with the over on this. I'd probably mess with the over.
Yeah, I think the over under just has a chance, of course, because especially if we think Miami, I can see Buffalo go up 14-0 in this game early on. That's probably because of James Cook. And then Miami just finding a way to still score some points. But it's a really tricky spot. I know Miami's gonna come out better. I just think the 6.5, like I think it's on par.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I trust Buffalo enough even at home. But I probably, if I'm gonna make a pick, I would take Buffalo the points. Just because I just find there's too many times that there's just certain teams that you have their number, and Buffalo feels like I just think they have Miami's number countless times. Yeah. Even like I said earlier on in the year, they had this matchup going.
Yeah.
And it was like, again, Tua left the game and stuff, but it was like, it wasn't like they didn't have that game fully in hand either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The game hit the under the last time, so Buffalo won 31-10. But I do think that the over is definitely in play still. But I do like Buffalo. I do like the points. Excuse me. Because now the game's even at Buffalo now, and Adam Scheffler dropped Jonathan Smith talking mad junk about Buffalo and being in Buffalo and how he couldn't stand Buffalo. And I'm not sure Buffalo's going to take that likely, but we'll have to find that out. But I do think Miami will probably be in a better position than we have seen them, obviously, in the last several weeks. But I just think Buffalo has Miami's number, so give me Buffalo in the points. Turning to a game that is not as entertaining, but we could find some ways to make it entertaining. The Chargers at Cleveland. Chargers coming in as a 4-3 record, going to Cleveland, who upsetted the Ravens last week, 2-6 in a year, still fighting for something when it comes to this season in general. We got Jameis Winston at quarterback, Cedric Tillman for fantasy purposes went off. The Chargers side of things, Lab Conkey, what I told people to definitely buy low on the last couple of weeks on, finally exploded last week. And now Chargers taking on the Browns. This game to me smells like an under. I think both defenses have been playing pretty well. I know people are saying the Chargers haven't played like anyone really substantial. But I think overall, I think the Chargers defense has been just decent to hold people in terms of points, when it comes to certain offenses. You can't control who you play.
Nope.
But I think Winston, I hate to say it, but I feel like it's going to be one of those games where he definitely has a couple interceptions in this game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The Chargers find no position. I think Cleveland's defense has been playing a lot better over the last 3 weeks. They've held, going back to the Eagles, the Bengals, stuff like that. They held them under 24 points. And then, last week, just holding Lamar and these guys to under their season average for points. So there's a lot to love about both defenses here. I do think the Chargers just have I just like Herbert a little bit here on the road a little bit. Currently the games I pick them, so I'm just going to go with the Chargers. I think they're a little bit more complete team. I did like what I saw from the Browns this past week with Winston and in terms of, he is, again, the Browns hadn't had a quarterback throw for over 300 yards in the last 2 years, and since last season, I should say. And then now all of a sudden Winston comes in and just, sparks it up, stuff like that. Got a question real quick, and then we'll get to you, Johnny, okay?
Yeah.
Keon Coleman or Brian Thomas ends up playing. Normally it'd be Brian Thomas, but both injured players who end up playing can end up with the kid gloves treatment. That's understandable. Super size, my guy. I would probably just still say Brian Thomas. This guy has been playing a lot. Not only has he been playing a lot, he's been playing very alpha-like. Keon Coleman still has, I know he's finding a better rhythm because now the defenses are taking away some attention away from him. But I do think in terms of Brian Thomas, we've seen him constantly, just have some really good performances. And now Gabe Davis, they're saying Gabe Davis is a long shot to play this week. So that would take, potentially Parker Washington to play and stuff like that with Evan Ingram and stuff. But they still need Brian Thomas as a deep threat. The Eagles can definitely be susceptible against a deep ball. So I'm definitely like Brian Thomas because there's also garbage time as well. Because Keon Coleman could find himself not as much involved, especially if the Buffalo game gets ugly. So I'm just putting my hat on Brian Thomas. He's been a lot more consistent. He's had better numbers throughout the whole year. So I definitely like Brian Thomas. What do you say, Johnny?
Definitely Brian Thomas for sure. Because number one, Doug Peterson is still trying to keep a job. So if he's still trying to keep a job, if he's still trying to keep a job, he's going to have his best player out there. And I think this is kind of like, for me, yeah, gotcha. He's saying, too, the other issue is the timing of the games, 1 p.m. and 4 p.m.
Yeah, we'll find out soon. Hopefully,
yeah, 11 a.m. Yeah, around 11:30, I think, like they typically break injury news. But yeah, man, like, man, like, it's so true, man. It's so true. So yeah, I think like he'll be out there and like
Ian Rappaport's reporting that they're like that. Brian Thomas, ETN, and Bigsby are likely to play it.
Yeah,
Getting chronic setback, but I understand it. Have a mini backup plan for the 4:00 game.
I'm trying to think about where he could go to for the 4:00 games. Like you said, Parker Washington is definitely an option as well, to be able to go to. And then some of the Detroit wide receivers too. I don't know what the size of your league is, but you also have the ability to be able to pivot to some of those Detroit wide receivers like was it Tim Patrick and probably Khalif Raymond. I don't know if they're still available on your waivers, but like just in case if things go completely sideways for you.
Devontae, the Tavion Wick, Tavion Wick.
Tavion Wicks, Adonai Mitchell, AD Mitchell. Like there's still some options like for you, man. So like just kind of be planning for that. But yeah, man. Long-winded answer, Brian Thomas, man, because Doug Peterson's trying to keep his job.
Definitely. But what do you say, Johnny, to this game overall with the Chargers and Browns?
Oh, man. This guy, I'm sorry, man. I see the people out here, and I just, want to help. Sadly, 11 a.m. waivers are closed.
What the heck? What kind of league you playing in?
Bro, listen. Let me stop you. Let me stop you there because I had some weird shit happen. In my – no, just listen to this. I had some weird shit happen in my home league. Absolutely. So I've been, doing this thing where – it's short benches. So, I'll typically, wait and pick up a defense or a kicker a little bit later on or whatever. And, man, I seen somebody had actually played and they had dropped Sterling Shepard after he had played and then picked up a kicker. I was like, bro, what the fuck is this? What is this? And the guy was like, he's like, oh, man, it was something it was a setting that, I'd never changed. I'm like, it's better me than we get in the championship and somebody starts playing shenanigans. So I think it just goes back to the age old rule, man. Check your league settings, make sure everything is tight, be that person that brings it up, man. So, but yeah, that's tough, man. That really is tough because Keon Coleman. Oh, wow. Yeah. So you don't really have any other options, man. So yeah, I would just say, man, my best advice to you, I think, you can tell me what you think, bro, but just pay attention to the injury report, man, at 11:30, and see what we got. Bucky Irvin is okay. All right. And that's okay, dude. That's all right. Bucky Irving, that's okay because even though, that's fine. Because even though the Bucks probably ain't gonna win, there's probably an opportunity for some garbage time touchdowns, man. So you're all right, man.
Yeah, you're good. Either way, even Brian Thomas not playing, you got Bucky Irving Monday night, and sometimes that's an equalizer as well.
Yes, sir.
So I think you're.
But this game, the Browns, man. For me, I'm on the opposite end, man. I like the Browns. Man. Just because I think now, man, there's a new sense of identity. And one of the things, man, with the Browns, they've been able to do all year long, even though they're 2-6, man, they've been able to muck it up for every single team. And you're right. This game smells under.
Don't get too high.
Right?
Okay.
Smells like dog in here. Underdog to me. For sure. So I think this is one of those games that it could go either way, right? And I like the Browns at home, dog pound. I know I feel gross even saying that, but I do like the Browns at home, and a couple of things like as far as like the Browns go, and just like this game overall is like Cleveland hasn't done a really good job at like forcing interceptions or anything like that. So like it's gonna be slow. It's gonna be slow. And the Chargers are first in rushing touchdowns allowed. So like obviously that's what Cleveland will want to do. But I agree with you, man. I feel like this is absolutely a game that feels like Jameis may turn it over once or twice, and I think like we all know that comes with the territory for sure. So give me the under in this game. Give me the Cleveland Browns. And from like a DFS side of things, Cedric Tillman, shout out UT with a big win last night against Kentucky. Baby, let's go.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah, I just had to get my segue. I think, yeah, like he's one of the chalkier plays on the slate for sure. But like I think at 4,300, I believe on DraftKings, I'm not going to take a whole lot to get that number back, to get back value on that right there. So he's led the team in targets for the last 2 weeks. I think that trend will continue as well. So even if he gets, what was it, 10 points, that's double. It's about double your value, 10 or 11. It's 2x in the price tag in the DFS side of things on DraftKings. So that's some chalk I'm okay with eating. And then like be careful. Ladd McConkey, that's where I wanted to go to, man. Ladd McConkey, he's a really good play here just in terms of what the Browns have been giving up in the slot, man. They've been giving up the 15th most receiving yards from the slot. So this is a great play if you're playing Ladd McConkey today, or if you have him or looking at it from a DFS perspective. So there's a couple of small nuggets in here I think that does have some value.
Yeah. You got the Browns in the under. I got the Chargers in the under. So it's gonna be. That's why it's a pick 'em. Superside is asking, should I start Dalton Kincaid or gamble with TJ Hawkinson? I would say that they're both interesting because we haven't seen TJ Hawkinson yet. I'm just curious because obviously, the Colts give it up to the tight ends. They're 23rd when it comes to tight end, point performances. And then you got Kincaid, who we could easily put him in as a touchdown potentially, like in this game that could go back and forth.
Dolphins haven't allowed a touchdown all year long to a tight end. Yeah, so like you can take that for what it's worth. And then you can also take it for what it's worth as well. Like with TJ Hawkinson, like to Nick's point, like we don't know what he's going to look like, but obviously like in this offense now, Aaron Jones, Jay Jets, obviously Jordan Addison, all he's got to do is just be out there. Right. And he could be open just by process of elimination. But I think like at this point, like the way I look at this is like, hey man, like until we actually see something from TJ Hawkinson, I think Dalton Kincaid, like that's probably the play. I don't love it. But I'm always a big proponent of just like, let me see it first before I throw him in my lineup and get a 0.
Yeah, we don't know, but snap count's going to be right. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of things that could definitely go wrong in that game later on the day, especially if you need something like that later on. So, I'm agreeing with Johnny. Just start Dalton Kincaid for the safest. But if you are a gambler, you know what I'm saying? If you are a gambler,
kind of guy right there.
Tyler, like, I'm not going to hate that move, but I would say, just temper expectations about Nick.
Yeah.
Even though he's playing the Ravens and they give it up against the pass. But yeah, I would say start Dalton Kincaid. And yeah, like I gotta see it in terms of snap share, target share, stuff like that. We don't know how Hawkinson's gonna mix in. But in terms of that, on to the next game, which is like again a crap game, one of the crap games of the week. Patriots getting 3.5 on the road, going to Tennessee. Take on the Titans. Patriots 2-6 in the year. Titans 1-6 on the year. Over under here is 30.5. We got news about Pollard more likely playing today. So that's gonna be good news for Tennessee side. For the Patriots side, Drake May, we know he's in. That's also good news for the Patriots side of things. Patriots getting 3.5 going on the road. Tennessee has just been one of those teams where defensively, it kind of reminded me of the Jets last year, where it's like the defense has been playing pretty solidly. but the offense is just not, picking it up whatsoever. We saw some glimpses last week, at least from Mason Rudolph and your boy Calvin Ridley. And I think when it comes to, these teams in general, it's like, I think this could be one of those, like, another one of those drag out games where we're like, could this come down to someone getting the last field goal of the game or the last touchdown drive of the game, something like that. I don't really have a dog here. I'll probably say the Patriots just because Drake May with this Patriots offense he's made them look a lot more competent in terms of, what this team can bring to the table on a weekly basis. I know Tennessee is a pass funnel defense, so things in terms of the pass game is going to be a lot more open to them, more into, the short and intermediate stuff. But also Drake May can move his legs. He's had back-to-back games of at least 220 yards or more pass yards. The only game he didn't, obviously, is the game last week where he left early. So I'll say this. I'll just probably say the Patriots and the points. I don't love it. But I think it's something that I think both these defenses are going to play pretty hard. I think Pollard coming back moves the needle a little bit to Tennessee. But I think that getting the Patriots at 3.5 for as good and bad as so-called played, I feel like they get up for games like this. I'm going to take the Patriots, unfortunately. Hate saying that.
Yeah, I know. Trust me. I know. Yeah. No, I'm actually with you, man. When I seen this line, I was like, all right, like I feel pretty good about taking the Patriots at 3.5. Oh man. Oh well. I mean, listen. Like we always say, we always give you the disclaimer. It's your team.
Always.
Yeah. But getting the Patriots at 3.5, I think is really good, man. Because I'm right there with you. I think that Drake May has definitely made this offense look a lot more competent for sure. And obviously, Ramondre Stevenson, as long as he can hold on to the football, I think, we all know what we're going to get from him. But the Titans have single-handedly tanked me in my season-long pool here locally, at 1-6, because there's definitely a few games I thought they were going to win. And I was, I subscribed to Will Levis as a QB2 at the end of the year. So at the beginning of the year. So it's how long at KOC. But yeah, I'm definitely in on the Patriots for this game. I just don't know if Mason Rudolph has the ability to be able to explode the way I shouldn't even use the word explode in a game like this, but manage the game, if you will, in this setting. And one thing the Patriots have always done really well is they've always done a pretty good job against the run. And then, this is a bit of a homecoming too, for Gerard Mayo, man, former UT guy going back home to Tennessee. So, sorry, just had to get my plug in there. But I like the under in this game for sure. And I'll take the Patriots with the 3.5.
Yeah, fair enough. I think from a DFS side of things, I definitely Drake May at 5,500 today, just because I just think that in terms of this team just looking a little bit better under center, I think 5,500 is a little too low, especially with Drake May. He could potentially run outside the pocket. He's starting to look like a decent quarterback to start. So I think the price tag around the range that he's going, probably start Trevor Lawrence as well.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of a little bit more upside, I think Drake might have a little more upside at this moment to trade Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, I mean Pollard, he's someone that I'm thinking about as well, but I don't know. That's a little bit more tougher. That's a little bit more for GPPs if anything else. Pollard is 6,800, and that's why I say he's more GPP. We all know he'll run away with the backfield, but it's still definitely tricky. Moving on to a better game this week, one of the better games of the slate. I think the highest over-under in the slate. The Cowboys, taking on the Falcons, over-under 51.5, 52. The boys are getting 3.5 on the road going into Atlanta. Dallas has played a lot better away than they have at home. Go figure. So I think this game definitely spells a ton of points. You're just hoping that for all things considered, they're the right. You get the right. You hit the right.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Because again, these over under sometimes they go a little bit strange, and then all of a sudden you're not on the right people. Like for example, like CD Lamb, stuff like that makes sense. But it all could be a Jalen Tolbert 2-touchdown game. It's like weird, like something weird like that, or Darnell Mooney 2-touchdown game. You know, so.
Zeke can't even get his shit together. Don't get us going. That's one place we can all agree on. Don't get us going.
I think you've been waiting for that for quite some time, but it's okay. It's all right. I guess Sonny, you guys play better on the road. We don't want to talk about the home struggles, all right?
Yeah.
That's not home cooking, by the way. Anyhow, we got Dallas, we got the Falcons. So I guess where I see this as, there's no Zeke today. Apparently he didn't make the team plane trip. And then so they activated Dalvin Cook again. He's so washed though, by the way. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like literally he's cooked. So Rico Dowell enters the situation, should see a lot more of the snap percentage. I mean, I'm taking Rico for a bet today, and I'll let you guys know what that is. Because that's just pure value. I think for the Atlanta side, I think when it comes to Kirk Cousins and this offense looking a lot more better than it has been, because there was talks about Penix potentially taking his job at some point early on in the year or stuff like that, and it's good to see Kirk Cousins bounce back.
Yeah.
Kyle Pitts, what do you think about him? He's 49.
What do you think about him? Hey man, I'm one of the presidents of the Kyle Pitts fan club, man.
Yeah, you sure are.
Yeah, I definitely
am. You sure are.
I am. I remember draft night out. Let me go back to it.
For that second touchdown, but I digress.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Draft night out. It's like, oh, that's how you feel, Kyle Pitts? What, first tight end off the board? I said, yeah, man, that's how I feel. Like, that's how I feel.
It took him 8 weeks to get him finally relevant. But it's okay.
I know. Him and Derrick Henry and James Conner, man, I know. It's rough. Just small. Yeah, I know.
Another conversation.
No, man, I love Kyle Pitts again today. I think obviously, like if you just look at what Dallas has been giving up to the tight ends, and Kyle Pitts find himself in another situation this week with a high over and the opportunity, to be able to run wild again. You see what George Kittle did last week. So I feel really good about having Kyle Pitts. He's obviously in my lineups this week for DFS plays for sure.
Which is a little surprising.
Yeah, I know. I thought he would have bumped up a little bit, but like I'll go back to the well again for sure. And then Kirk Cousins, man, like our poster boy, for the show this week. Just because of what Dallas has been giving up in the passing game. I like it.
Bland's back today, though.
Huh?
Bland is back today. Delon Bland. He's back.
Yeah. I mean, listen, hey man, that's all well and good. But I like it. I like Atlanta, and I like what they got, man. Like this is what we've been waiting on. This is what we've been waiting on for this team, right? Like they have an elite tight end, like they have a certified number one, like Darnell Mooney's the real deal. Bijan Robinson has been really strong over the last handful of weeks, man. I think he's got like two or three of his last weeks, I believe. He's went over 20 fantasy points in PPR settings. So like it's all starting to click. And for me, man, like I just love this Falcons place and where they're at and what they have going on. And Dallas, you already touched on it, man. Dallas has no other play other than to throw the football. That's it. Even though like Atlanta, they're ranked second in rushing touchdowns allowed, but like that's all well and good. But when you have basically the worst rushing offense in the NFL, like this is pretty much, hey, it's heads or tails. And I feel like I'm willing to take my chances with the Atlanta defense. And then like the other thing I think that's really weird, man, and really unique, like you kind of touched on it, like on the over-under piece, is like you got to be on the right side of it. And it's like for fantasy managers, it doesn't really matter how you get the points as long as you get them. But like, man, CD Lamb hasn't had meaningful yards and meaningful production in quarters 1 through 3. They've all been garbage time touchdowns, garbage time yards, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, man, like, yeah, it's been really, really weird to see Dallas this year and see what they've got going on. But hey, man, like, it is what it is. Yeah, give me the Falcons, man. Give me the Falcons in this one. Give me the over because it's definitely going to get there because these two teams throw the ball way too much for it not to get there. It's just a matter of are you on the right side of the player aspect of things. So, and as far as like ownership, I don't know if you were going to hit on that, man.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, all right. Go for it then. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, from the ownership side of things, like it makes sense, like in terms of where people rely in this game. I saw what surprised me a little bit. CeeDee Lamb's not actually owned more. See him 12%. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, really?
Yeah.
I know he's a little expensive. I know he's 8,800, but there's plenty of ways you can get there. This side of things.
Yeah.
Drake London 16%. So I get that. I understand that, but I don't think people are taking into account Deron Bland coming back this week. So it's one of those spots where I'm like, yeah, I mean, no problem. I mean, you know, I'm sure they'll be targeting him and stuff, but I got an updated report that Deron Bland's not playing today. So okay, I understand it. Drake London.
Give me some more heartbreak, Drake.
Hey, God. Bijan Robinson 7,400 on DK, and it makes a ton of sense because Dallas just bleeds rushing yards to running backs as well. This defense is just not. Got breaking news: Brian Robinson's out for Washington. Gotta adjust my board a little bit, you know what I'm saying? I gotta adjust some things, you know, because Brian Robinson now out for the Washington Commanders. So I'm guessing it's gonna be an Austin Eckler day in terms of how that goes. Gotta see if he's on waivers. But no, I'm kidding. He might be. I don't know. But going back to this game and going back to the ownership, I think it makes sense to play your Atlanta Falcons all across sport this week. Makes a ton of sense. In terms of, you know, Bijan, London, it's even Darnell Mooney's out there. I got him in a couple of leagues. Like, this game should just go off for points and production. There's really the only way I really see it not doing that is somehow Atlanta just takes a 17-0 lead and just and then it's like the passing game kind of just gets out of, you know, it doesn't really get there per se, like how we're projecting it. So it's just one of those things where you're starting everybody that you have in terms of these guys, these two teams. I like Rico Dowell in this game as well from a rushing side because I think in terms of I just think in terms of the rush yards total is a little too low. Seeing him at 42.5 on some books as well. So I saw it, but I think it bumped up a little bit more into 44.5. So I just think that Dallas going to have to try to find a way, some type of running ability, some type of rushing lanes to get there so that they open up their passing game even more. But I still suspect that CeeDee Lamb is going to be a Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb show. It's only taking Rico Dowell because there's going to be some lanes that are going to have to open up at some points throughout the game, and I just think it's a smart bet to take Rico for the rush yards because that's just a little too low for a starting running back in the NFL. But going to this game, was there anything else that you had to add?
No, man. No, nothing else. I think you pretty much hit on everything, man. The ownership piece, like, I think you're spot on. And this also, too, like, I'll throw out my last kind of, like, little segue is, like, this is also one of those games, too, and I talk about it every week to be careful. When you have a lot of ownership, a lot of condensed ownership around one game, that typically means that, like, hey, everybody, the 60-50% of ownership, it can't be everybody in that game. So I just would say, hey, like, just be aware of that if you're playing DFS.
And that's where, again, like, if you are going to target that game, don't make it like your main full of like stacking. If it's everybody stacking the game, don't make it a priority stack.
Right.
Because if you do, and for some reason it doesn't hit in the right spots for your stack, you're definitely behind the field who had some right spots hit. So take the game, you know, if you want to take CeeDee Lamb, obviously I'm not telling you to not play him. It's more about just don't try to stack up all the pieces in the game, like to where it's like you got like 5 of your players in that game and like 2 of them don't hit. Then all of a sudden you're definitely behind the sticks for the later games, even though we don't have as many later games today. So it's just one of those things you got to be aware of. So Raiders getting 7.5 on the road going to Cincinnati. Feel like I've seen this movie before.
Yeah.
In the season, Bengals 3-5 in the season, over under 44.5. Yeah, like I feel like I've seen this movie before. First game of the year, Patriots going into Cincinnati. I think they were 7.5, underdog as well.
Probably.
And end up winning that game.
Probably.
Cincinnati, no T. Higgins once again. You know what I'm saying? So it's the Burrow Chase show as per usual. And then there's no Zach Moss in this game. He was inactive this morning. So it's the Chase Brown show in the backfield for Cincinnati. I do think there's a way of clearly Bengals come out and just, go scorched earth on the Raiders. But I also see a universe where the Raiders find themselves in a competitive match, competitive game here, like they've proven a couple of times throughout the year. The Ravens game where they won the Ravens earlier on in the year, people forgot about that. Like Gardner Minshew, at quarterback. People forgot about that game. People also forgot about the Raiders playing the Chiefs closely last week, I think. That was, again, everyone talks about how Mahomes and the Chiefs are this, but also it's like you still played in the Super Bowl 2-time back-to-back defending champs. Pretty tough. So I do think the Raiders, it's one of those weird spots. I'll take the Raiders point spread today because I just think that Cincinnati has shown us countless times again that they can't slam the door on a team. Even the game against the Panthers several weeks ago where they were like, they were kind of lackadaisical for a while. It was like they were kind of rope-a-doping them for a while, and then it's like then they finally kind of got the knockout punch for them. It's like the game, and again, they come out hot, and then even they couldn't shut down the Cleveland Browns without Watson. So and then the Giants, even though they won that game a couple weeks ago on Sunday Night Football, it's like they weren't really dominant in that game. So I have my concerns about the Bengals for sure. So I'm just going to take the Raiders point spread here and just, 7.5, like on the road. We'll just have to find out here. In terms of a DFS side of things, I know Chase is pretty high owned today. Makes a ton of sense because he should get a ton of volume, a lot more volume today. But I would still he's just not my favorite receiver play this week just because the Bengals either they come out and get a decent lead and then they stop throwing as much. They start running the ball and be more conservative with the football. Or it's just, again, they just find themselves maybe potentially coming back later in the game for garbage time. Cool. But it's also still not that I trust Chase. Not like Chase can't go out and score 2 touchdowns in a day and make me look foolish and stupid. But it's more about I like Jacoby Myers today for the Raiders. I definitely like Rob Bowers today. But in terms of this game and how it goes, just give me the Raiders and the points. I think they have the ability to potentially upset today. So sprinkle on the money line.
Ooh, okay, Mr. Moneyline. Chase Brown is actually he's a chalk. He's one of the chalkier plays of the day at almost 30%. In this, yeah, he's the chalky play. Chase is about 10%. But I'm right there with you, man. As far as I was building my lineups today, and I'm like, okay, I got to a place where I was like, all right, do I want CD? Do I want Chase? Or do I want AJ Brown? And I was like, give me AJ Brown.
Yeah.
Give me AJ Brown. And obviously we'll talk about that later. But I think the other thing, and I keep saying this, man, it's I agree with everything you said, about the Bengals and how, we don't know which version of them we're going to get. But it's also a thing too, where if Chase goes out and has 8 catches, 92 yards, and a touchdown, all right, cool. But we also know it's also within the realm of possibilities for him to go 12, 180, and 2, or 12, 110, and 3. We know that's in the realm of possibilities, but it seems like it doesn't happen when T. Higgins isn't there. And those big monster blow-up games, and I keep saying this, I think T. Higgins is really showing his value just to the Cincinnati offense. And unfortunately, they're probably not going to sign him because they're a bunch of cheapskates. So for me, Chase Brown, I think is a great play. I think he's great chalk to eat today. But I even have Gardner Minshew. He's actually on DraftKings. I actually have him as my quarterback in one of the lineups that I built today, just because it gave me a great ability to be able to get to different high-end pieces. And then no matter how you look at this game, right? Like if you say the Bengals are going to go out and scorch earth, all right, well, the Raiders are going to have to throw the ball. Well, even if the Raiders are going to win, then guess what? He's going to have to throw the ball like eventually. And like Alexander Madison is, I keep saying it, man. Like he's played some really good football, man, over the last handful of weeks. And another place that, like, I would say I feel okay with going to, like, obviously season long, you're starting Brock Bowers, no question, right? But like Brock Bowers this week, where did I see that at? Yeah, Cincinnati, the 8th most receptions per game to tight ends. So Brock Bowers is obviously going to have a big day, right? So like however you need to, get there in this game from a passing attack, whether it's Brock Bowers or whether, you want to take the route that I'm traveling, which, whatever, good luck to everybody. It's like they're going to be able to move the ball. And Jacoby Myers, I think he's shown, man, that like he's absolutely a credible NFL wide receiver who can be productive and get open. So I'm with you, man. I think this game is going to be a lot closer than like what the general public thinks. So I will take the Raiders and the 7.5 for sure. I did take the Bengals to win the game, like straight up, like obviously my pick 'em pool here, but like I absolutely 1,000,000% would not be shocked if this game ended up being close, man.
Yeah, it just smells like a game that's, for the Raiders to come out and just surprise folks. It's just one of those games of the year. So.
Oh, wait, Amari Cooper inactive. So my man, Keon Coleman.
Oh.
Is he still on here? Yeah.
Thanks for the news.
Yeah.
Because I got him playing against you this week.
Oh, shit. Oh. Actually, wait a minute. Adam Schefter just texted me. Incorrect information. He will be on the field.
Incorrect information, by the way.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Curtis Samuel's active today. This guy. 1 year, I thought he was going to do something. Anyway, in terms of, look, just the Raiders, I feel it's an easy point spread for them. Next game, Broncos getting 9.5 on the road, going to the Ravens, coming off an upsetted, loss to the Browns. The over-under is 46.5 at the moment. There's some sharper guys taking the Broncos 9.5 here. I would just probably tend to agree. My concern is that this is like one of those Vegas trap games again. Like I talked about last week. The Ravens are a really good team, but it's like it feels like to them they also have struggles with like completely closing a door on some teams. I just wonder Denver. I just don't know if they have the offense to keep up here to cover the 9.5. They should because Bo Nix's been playing a lot more better lately in terms of his scrambling ability and stuff. And then with the Ravens, like they also just tend to fold through the pass. So, I don't know. It's a tough line because I do believe that Denver could easily cover the line and keep this game closer than most people think. I just don't buy really enough into his last 4 opponents. Like
I was gonna say that's the catch. That's the catch, dude.
I know they talked about Tuesday to start. He's looked really spectacular, but it's again 206 passing yards and 2 scores through the air against the Raiders 4 weeks ago. Chargers 216, 2 passing touchdowns. Just Chargers 3 weeks ago. New Orleans, he had 184 passing yards, but it was a Thursday night game. They had that game pretty much in hand. And then the Carolina Panthers last week, who he had his best day of the year. 284 yards through the air and 3 scores. So
everybody, this
just smells to me like it's it's gonna be a down spot for the rookie QB going on the road and taking on a Baltimore team defense that they're susceptible against the pass, but how many weapons do Denver really have through the air to really take advantage of this matchup? I don't know. And then the Ravens offense still look too good, even though they lost last week. This could be like a little overcorrection by Vegas. That's why people are taking the 9.5 for the Broncos. But I still tend to find the Ravens, and I think that in order to be I think this is the Eagles' call from a couple weeks ago for me, where it's like the Ravens don't cover this line and they don't win by 10 or more points. Then we have to be a little concerned about how this team can be in terms of moving forward. In terms of, I'm not saying they're not good, but in terms of how we view them as a team that they can deliver and slam the door on teams that are relatively pretty decent, as in Denver has been this season. But what do you say, Johnny?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to like what you said, but I also think like the reason why like they haven't been able to slam the door on people is because of the glowing issue that they have, which is their pass defense, which is why like teams have been able to come back, which is why maybe Vegas and sharper people are taking the 9.5 because it's like, all right, well, hey, like even if they get up big time, like they've been able to give up these leads, later on, in the game. And if you're giving up leads to guys like Gardner Minshew, then like it's possible that you could give up a lead to, a Bo Nix, right? But like I do agree with you. Like I think like they're definitely a better football team than the Denver Broncos, right? For 3 quarters, like when they get up on you, that's what it is. But like for me, I think this game is really it's gonna say more about where the Denver defense is at, right? Because Denver right now is trending to be one of those wild card teams that like could get into the playoffs. And if they get in, they could pull off a win and then find themselves in a divisional round playoff game. So I think this is a really interesting game for me. For sure. And I think it's, one of the other calls too, man. Like, and I think this, we always just kind of lose focus of it, man. I don't have him in any DFS lineups or anything, but like, what does Derrick Henry do? Because I think this is the game that like, again, like your big time money player, like what does he do in this game? Like we know what Lamar is going to do, right? Like we know what that's going to be. So like, I don't know, man, like this one, to me, I'm with you. It has all the feels. It feels trappy. It feels fun. They're 5-3. You got a rookie quarterback. You got Lamar Jackson. You got Derrick Henry. You got the recently traded Deontay Dropsy Johnson. Like you have all of these ingredients here to make this game. Like obviously at the beginning of the season, we never would have thought this game would have been like a game that we're like, all right, like we need to check this out. But I agree with you though, like with Bo Nix and like him being QB9 on the year right now, like it is more about like the opponents that he has played, along with the lack of production, like just from the quarterback field in general. Like we haven't got a lot of production big time from the field in general, right? So I think like you marry that with like exactly where we're at now here in week 9, and it's easy to say, okay, hey, like we got this. Another call too. Like, I don't necessarily love Bo Nix in this situation, but I am going back to Cortland Sutton because, like, hey, man, if we feel like, if we feel like,
all your guys come out the woodwork now, huh?
Yeah, they're all kind of
last week I called it on this show.
Oh my God, don't even talk about that, man. That made me so mad, dude. Oh my God, man! Almost like literally, I'm like we were driving,
going off after the first quarter.
Oh my God! And I was so frustrated because I'm like, oh man, like I got to go drop my picks off. And like, we got family. Well, yeah, I know we got family photos, and I'm like, I can't do it. You can like every week, like, oh my God, dude, I'm gonna go off. I'm gonna go off on the tangent. So yeah, so that happened, and then like I'm driving, right, and I'm like, okay, like I'm listening to the radio, I'm like, oh yeah, like FanDuel messed up because they got Dalton Kincaid at 4,000. I was like, what? And I had Kyle Pitts in, and I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, well, maybe like let me climb. Yeah. Anyways, man, like just a disaster. But yeah, man, like I'm going to Cortland Sutton, like I'm playing him in all my DFS lineups because like I subscribe to the theory that the Ravens do have an opportunity on the back end. And let me see, is Humphrey, is he still out as well?
Humphrey? I'm thinking about Troy Franklin as well.
He's questionable, so we haven't got any news on him yet. But like, yeah, man, like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, man, like, here's a good opportunity for me. But anyways, man, like I'm going there. So long-winded way, Cortland Sutton's not getting a lot of ownership. And another piece as well for people maybe trying to be sneaky and run the sneaky play, Javonte Williams, I believe I found a stat that was like when the Broncos are underdogs or either when they were losing, he was like, typically finishes as like a RB 28 or some shit like that right there versus when they're a favorite or they're winning and he finishes as like an RB 1. So like, I think this is just a place where like you need to get away from him, but Cortland Sutton, I'm definitely in on for sure. And hey man, Mark Andrews is back from the dead. as well. So like, it's a lot of weird weird shit going on here in this game. So I would say give me the over in this game because I'll definitely take the over. And then man, I'll take the Broncos, man, just on a backdoor close. I'll take it as they close on the back door.
All right, that's fair. Because the Ravens have been doing that all year. And stat for your boy Derrick Henry, he's averaged 28 DraftKings points at home.
Oh.
So
pay attention.
That easily pays off 3.5x of his salary. So it's possible that this could happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I know 9.5 is a lot to lay, but I just think it has to be one of those statement games for the Ravens where we're like, in order to take this team a lot more seriously, and then for them to potentially go to make this Super Bowl run and make everything look glossy, they need to win this game in more than 10 points. So they need to cover. I'm not exactly betting the game, but I think from a perspective of what I just said, it just makes a ton of sense for the Ravens to do so. Going to the 4:00 games, but the 4:00 game, Sunday Night Football game, Monday Night Football game, and then we'll get to props before we get out of here. Bears getting 2 on the road, going to Arizona. This feels like a game that both of these teams have kind of played with us all year. And it shows by the record. Bears are 4-3 after a very, 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 very interesting loss to the Commanders last week on the final Hail Mary play, where Noah Brown was just left open by Tyree Stevenson, basically. He's not even playing today because of what happened last week.
Would you play him?
I mean, to not
hell no, I wouldn't play him.
I honestly would because look, I'm not in the spirit of breaking someone's confidence. I'm all about look, you made a terrible mistake last week, but go out there and prove that you are still a great player, and go out there that and still be a player that we know you're capable of being. You know what I'm saying? That's what that is for me. But that's just a personal thing for me. But he's benched today, so there's that. But I'm gonna tell you this: I like the Cardinals today. I like the over. I think the Bears are gonna find a way to still be competitive in this game. I just think we've seen this script for the Cardinals for the last couple of weeks. Keep the game close, win the game at the end.
Yeah,
keep the game close and win it at the end. The Cardinals defense has been atrocious. There's no telling to that. But the Cardinals played really better teams versus the Bears this year, and the Cardinals have had better wins this year as well. So, and I say that going back to the Niners game where they win that game late. Kyler Murray, 50-yard rushing touchdown out of nowhere, like the first drive of the game, crazy. He just did that last week against Miami, by the way. Did that I think that's the Chargers as well. So, yeah, man. Can you tell a pattern? But I think obviously the Bears defense is really good. I just think that Kyler Murray, for me, starting to shape into again a QB that we could hopefully trust on a weekly basis. And I just think him and Marv back on the same page, which is really good for this offense. Before the blow-up game, he was like, he talked to Marv and he's like, what routes do you like to run? What are your best assets? Like, what do you love to do? So that way I can get you the ball. But yeah, I mean, look, Kyler Murray, I was so tempted to take us over his passing yards today. He looked really good last week, but I just wanted to be, I needed to see it again. I just need to see it again. I just need to see it one more time. That's all I got to see, Kyler. I got to see it one more time. I'd stay away, but I got to see it one more time. But yeah, look, I just like the Cardinals today. Something in my guts telling me the Cardinals are going to take this game. They know. Look, coming into the year, we didn't expect the Cardinals to even go 4-4. I told people the Cardinals had a chance to go 4-4. Right now, they're 4-4. And I think they can tell that they have an opportunity to do something a little bit better than they've predicted that they could potentially do this year. So this game is not only huge for the Cardinals, the team. I think it's a big game for Kyler Murray in terms of you got to win this game in order to really feel like you're one of those quarterbacks in the league that can win out tough games, can lead your team to victory, and get yourself in position to not only win the division, but to get at least into a decent playoff position for this team that wasn't really so-called predicted-wise in the cards. Get it? The cards. But Chapter, what
Dad
do you
jokes.
say about this
Yeah,
game?
I'm the
What do you
one
say
with the
about this
dad
game
jokes.
before I take more bad dad
I
jokes?
was about to say, well, for me, man, I'm going with the
Here's the
Bears.
mic. Here's the mic.
I'm going with the Bears, bro. Like, just
Of course
because,
you are.
yeah, yeah. Just because, man. I mean, like, you think about it, right? Like, the NFC North is probably the best division in football.
Yep.
And
Most
obviously,
likely.
like they just lost last week on a crazy play, right? Like to end the game. Even before last week, I believe, Caleb Williams was trending in the same way that Bo Nix was as far as like being one of the hotter fantasy quarterbacks. And I think like you get into the desert with Arizona and you get into a game with this, like of this magnitude, I think it's going to be an opportunity for Caleb Williams to show, what he can do. And the other thing too, man, is like Chicago is 7th in the NFL in interceptions forced. So like they do a good job at turning over the quarterback. And Kyler Murray, he does have a propensity at points and times to be able to do that. And from a DFS side of things, actually, like I like this game. I like some of the players in this game. DeAndre Swift is somebody that I am playing this week in my DFS lineups just because I like the over in this game. And I think there's an ability for him to be able to give you some really good value at his price for me to be able to work in some other players. So I like that aspect of it. But yeah, like I agree with you, man. I think like it's just weird. The Cardinals are a weird team, man. Just overall, like they're not giving up a lot of passing touchdowns to the quarterback, but they're allowing the 7th most passing yards in the NFL. And like DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze, right? Like, what is that?
Bend but don't break defense, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And like the Cardinals, like they give up yards. They give up yards to teams. And I think that's one of the things like with the Bears, is like when they're able, and I know this is gonna sound like crazy, but like when they're able to put up points, man, like they're going to win because their defense is still, I feel like their defense is still underrated, man.
The Bears?
Yeah. It's still underrated. So like I like the Bears out here in this game, man, in the desert today. I just think this is a great bounce back game. I think this is a great game for Caleb Williams just to really show like how tough he is in between the years. Because even if you look at the game last week, that game was not going their way at all. And like he did everything he was supposed to do. And the Cardinals don't necessarily have the calling card. I did a dad joke there. Of being a defensive team. So, yeah, so give me the Bears, man. And I'm cool with playing Caleb Williams this week. I like DeAndre Swift. I like Trey McBride from a DFS side of things as well. So, like, I think there's definitely, like, a couple of plays you can make here. It might be a sneaky game stack if you go GPP because both offenses have the ability to put points on the board.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go that far because I know both these teams can put up points. It still could be one of those weird games, just like last week with the Commanders, where like the game just finds a snag, and in terms of how it's just kind of the pace slows down a little bit more sometimes, and you'll tell because the Bears defense is that good. They'll kind of slog it down a little bit. Caleb Williams still seems like at times that he's like not still comfortable enough, but this could be the breakout game as well. It's like really a stay away game for me for the most part. It's just more like I just think the Cardinals should have an opportunity to win this game, and I'm just going to take the team that's just been in the pressure cooker just a little bit more and able to do better when it comes to crunch time. I'm going to take the Cardinals. Jaguars, Eagles. I mean, not much to say about this game, honestly. Nope. Jaguars 2-6 in the year, fighting for their playoff lives. Doug Peterson fighting for his job. Getting 7.5 as an underdog going to Lincoln Financial to take on the Eagles, who are 5-2 in the year. I mean, man, over/unders 46. I think just like last week with the Green Bay Packers, I'm going to take the over. At least the Jaguars have been competent enough to keep games within reach and to score. So, I mean, I like them to somewhat keep pace with the Eagles, but I think the Eagles are going to be too much for the Jags, obviously. Jalen Hurts playing his best football right now. Him and A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is probably someone that deserves to be a lock of the slate for me. A.J. Brown's a lock of the slate. When you look at man coverage, when you look at the Jaguars, they are giving their they're 30th when it comes to pass yards allowed to receivers because they play a lot of man coverage, and that's what they're going to see a lot of today in terms of they're going to be playing that against AJ Brown. Good luck. Good luck. AJ Brown's a lock of the slate today. I'm going to call it now. AJ Brown's one of the lock of the slate for me. But in terms of this game, I mean, Barkley is obviously, a play you could definitely play there, obviously. Jalen Hurts, for me, is one of those – he's what, 7,800? Yep, 7,800 on the dot. Look. Jalen Hurts, 7,800. Is this a spot that you want to play him? Or is it more like – or is it? Can we just see too much like Barkley later on in the game? Can we see not enough passing production? I'm
going to answer that question for you.
Sure.
Jacksonville is 7th in rushing yards allowed. Jacksonville is ranked 4th in rushing yards per attempt allowed.
That's interesting.
So this might be one of those nuclear Saquon Barkley games.
It is? Okay.
It very well may be.
Barkley's one of those players this week that I have like 3 leagues playing against him in 3 leagues.
Yeah. But I think like this 46, like we know, man, the Eagles can take 70% of that number and get there themselves, right? And like AJ Brown can still pay off his value. You know what I mean? Like so, like for me, like obviously AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and Saquon. I even kind of messed around a little bit today, and I was like, oh, like should I run like AJ Brown and Devonta Smith? I was like, man, you're getting cute now. You're getting cute, but like. But like my moral of the story for me today.
He said, "You're getting cute."
I already am cute. DFS side of things. Get an Eagle in your lineup, man. Get one of those 3 Eagles in your lineup for sure. And like I don't think you'll be disappointed today for sure because I think this is absolutely one of those games where you're going to see that like the Eagles are they're just too much for the Jags, and I'm going to give you not even a hot take. But, like, I'm just going to go ahead and just call it already. After this game, people are going to be back on the Eagles as a Super Bowl favorite from just the way that they manhandled the Jaguars today. Like, that's just what it's going to be. They're going to be 6-2, and people are going to be like, oh, my God. Like okay. Like, yeah.
Talking about more of those casuals out there, huh?
Yeah.
Casuals.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I said from the start I'm going to take the Chiefs and the Eagles for the Super Bowl, and so far, those look pretty good. But I think I said that a couple weeks ago against the Giants, where I called on this show, by the way, that they don't win by more than 10 points. We can't take the Eagles as a serious Super Bowl contender, and they beat the bricks off them. So
yeah, you did. You called that.
So it's more about like I think in this spot like seems a little trappy. But no Christian Kirk for the Jags now. He's done for the year with a broken collarbone.
But you was gonna be a Steeler, man. That's heartbreaking, man. That's heartbreaking.
Any receiver that's competently decent, you want to be a Steeler. I get it.
Can't blame me.
I'm not gonna blame you, but yeah, Eagles and the points and the over. Shit, and the over. Rams, Seahawks division matchup. Over unders 47.5, 48. Yeah, I don't know about that over under. That's for a division game like this. Rams are a 2-point favorite on the road going into Seattle. Man, I don't know. I know Puka Nacua is playing. We got news on that. Puka Nacua is definitely playing. No Metcalf today for Seattle. I'm really trying to get a grasp for who should win this game because I like the Rams in terms of how they've been playing. Obviously, they beat Minnesota on the Thursday night game. Got some extra rest now. Getting all your weapons back is very important for Stafford, obviously. I think I'm just going to go with the Rams. Seattle is just proving that they're kind of similar to – I would say they're just kind of similar to the Cardinals, where it's like
Shocker.
Right? Yeah, seriously.
Shocker.
Well, they're both teams that are like.
You know what they are? I'll take the words
meh.
out. I'll take the words out of your mouth for you. I'll tell you exactly what they are. They are better fantasy football assets than they are real life football.
Oh yeah,
that's just all it is. They got the name, they got the glitz, they got the glamour. Like they have like the players that like fantasy football managers are familiar with and like know and love. But like as a football team, they're meh. Meh.
They're meh.
Yeah, they're meh.
Okay, got to use that more often. Meh. They're just meh. Not mid. Meh.
Meh.
But yeah, what do you say about this game, Johnny? I think I like the Rams side, obviously. Based on getting your weapons back is huge. Everything else, I think they're poised for a little bit more of a playoff run. I just think Seattle's losing steam, and if they win this game, then they'll get some more fuel back into themselves. But they've looked really just loosey goosey, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just they've looked really okay this year, but they've also looked really like subpar.
Yeah. This game, like for me, I'm with you. I like the Rams, like in this game for sure. And I think like, they're obviously missing DK Metcalf, like something crazy. And like the Rams have been like they've been playing better football, right? And like now all of a sudden, like they have all of their weapons there. And I think at the beginning of the year, if you said, hey, if the Rams have all of their weapons and the Seahawks have all their weapons, offensively, defensively, right? Like who would you prefer? And I think it would be the Rams, right? Because like McVay, man, like he's a damn good coach. Like he is, like he makes it work, man. Like it's really dope to see. And I think like the other thing too, man, for the Rams is like they've been getting a little bit more defensively than like what we thought that like they would be getting. So like that's another element of this as well. And then the other part is that like we thought the Seahawks would be better, but they're not. And so like that's a little bit wild just for me to kind of wrap my head around. But like Seattle right now, man, they're ninth in receiving yards allowed, and like okay, like now you got to deal with Stafford and this crew here coming in, which is gonna be tough sledding. So like I like the Rams today, man, for sure. I think like a sneaky DFS play. I think Tyler Lockett is a sneaky DFS play. Rams been having a little bit of problems with just receivers on the outside. They've done a pretty good job with receivers inside the slot. And here we are in what is this, like year 10, 11 or whatever. And we're still, Tyler Lockett is like still a thing. People have been ready to throw him to the side and he's still like continuing like, like it's funny. Like, I know you probably remember my man, Doug Baldwin, kind of similar thing, right? Like, yeah, man. Yeah. Like we're just, oh yeah. Oh, bro, are you kidding me, man? He's from Florida. Of course I remember him. I hate him. But like, yeah, of course. But like, he's still a thing, man. So like, just to give you a little bit of relief, like on the DFS side of things, a player that, not a lot of people are playing. But yeah, I'll take the Rams in the 2.5, and I'll take the over. But like, hey, man, we thought this a couple of weeks ago too, man. Like, I'll make this quick plug. We thought this a couple of weeks ago with the Seahawks and the Falcons, and the Seahawks, man, they went in there and laid the smackdown. So like, just like Tyler Lockett, when we're ready to write them off, here they go. They show up again, man. And like, it's our favorite thing. It's a divisional game, man. So Geno Smith, AKA Michael Brick, in his 13th year, he's still doing it, man. And like Ken Walker, last thing I'll say, and I'll shut up. Like Ken Walker has been kind of last two games haven't been really, he hasn't really set the world on fire, but in season long aspect, like obviously you got to play him. DFS, I'm not playing them this week, but this is a big division game right here. This might be without like having to go back and look at every single game other than the Packers and Lions game. This might be the biggest division game on the slate this week here, because this right here is going to help tell who's going to have a say in being first place in the NFC West.
Yeah. I mean, Walker 7,300 today is the GPP pivot today. Yeah. For sure. The Rams bleed rush yards to running backs this season. So there's that. Probably just a pivot. But I'll just say, just to wrap up this game, I just don't know how the 48.5 is going to get there. I have no idea. Raised to 48.5 now. So I'm not sure how this game gets to 49. I'm just not too sure how it gets there. Like, if Metcalf was playing, I'd probably change my tune a little bit. Crazy how I think one player kind of changed up.
That's what I was about to say.
But it's like, you lose that vertical threat downfield for Seattle. And that's where it's like dink and dunk and stuff like that. And we're talking about 11, 12 play drives, stuff like that, whatever. Yep. It's like I'm not too sure how it gets there, but I would probably take the under in this game, honestly. I think division opponents, they know each other well enough to know certain things. Excuse me. So I'm just going to take the under for the division matchup. All right, last game for the 4 o'clocks before we get to the Sunday and Monday. Pretty much the game of the week, as Fox would say. The game on Fox.
Sorry. It just makes me go. Bang! And then you see the X's and O's, and then bang! There's a trap block. Wow! Pow! It's just, sorry. I couldn't help it.
He couldn't. I can tell you couldn't. It's okay. We have the Lions coming in as a 2.5, pretty much 3-point favorite going into Lambeau Field for the 6-2.
Better stop doing that shit. It's triggering my brain, man. You better stop.
Over is 47.5. This is a game where division game I see the over on. Jordan Love is officially playing, and so that's good for the Packers. I think the Lions here have just constantly shown us that they are a bad team to play with. They've just been beating down teams, straight bullying teams. It all started with Dallas a couple weeks ago. It's just like they just laid the smack. Oh man, So obviously the Titans last week was pretty much. Come on now, that was a freshman team taking on a college team.
Varsity.
Not even close.
He said not even.
Not even close. Not even the same stratosphere. But in terms of this Detroit team, what I love most about this Detroit team is that there's just multiple ways they come and beat you. And Jared Goff's still playing phenomenal football. They get Jameson Williams back next week. So, yeah, I think it's a game where I'm just back and forth on because Green Bay is also a really good offense. And even though Jordan Love is not going to be 100%, this could still be a game where he finds Packers receivers and makes them have really good games this week, regardless. So I'll tell you right now, I'm gonna take Jordan Love over 221.5 pass yards.
Man.
The only time he hasn't hit that was a game he left early last week. And in order for the Green Bay Packers to come out and be a team that is fighting for a division, I think both of these teams are going to be putting up points today. That's why I like the over. Give me the Lions though to cover and the over in the game. What do you say, Johnny?
Oh man, I was just looking down, man. Like again, like just to make sure. What you say? Oh man. I was just looking at the weather, man, because there's supposed to be rain. There's supposed to be wind there.
Don't care. Taking the over.
I know, man. This is the first time probably like in a month that I'm like moving off of any Green Bay Packers in a DFS side of things, man. Just because Jordan Love, the injury, like I'm a little bit concerned. I think they got the bye next week.
You're starting him on your season-long teams. Okay.
Actually, I don't think I am. I think there's only one league I'm starting. No, I don't even think I'm starting him in that one. I got Sam Darnold. And then I think it might be actually your league where I don't know how you guys let me get Jaden Daniels and Jordan Love in the draft, but that's another story. Like, but yeah, like I'm not gonna play any of the Packers this week just because like I am terrified at the conditions and the injury with Jordan Love. Like I'm kind of staying away from it, and I think like the Lions have been running white hot at this point, man. So, and I know it's a different dynamic now because Jared Goff is outdoors, and I know like that's probably going to be something that's going to be made. There's going to be a deal being made of that, but like when you have the run game that the Detroit Lions have, I cool. Let's go outside and do this. You know what I mean?
Starting to, man, yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't like now is I didn't see it till now, but the wind's gonna be over
30 plus. Yeah.
That's never a good thing because usually I'll take something that's like 20, but not 30.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know, man. It really is tough and tricky. I'm still gonna stick to my bet. Still gonna stick to Jordan Love over.
That's fair. And this and like,
you know what? I'm not gonna. You know, I get it. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be a drag out, rain out game, stuff like that. But that could also mean broken plays.
Yeah, like that's the other element of it too. It's like the offensive player knows where they're going, the defensive player doesn't, and like, you know, there we go.
Right.
So
our guy George Play.
Yo.
Tell people about the show, George. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He made the fan club, but he's got 2 receivers and a flex, non-PPR. And we're doing just fine, my guy. We're gonna get to our lineups and everything, player props in a little while. But seems like the same guys we talk about every week. So 2 receivers and a flex. Brian Thomas, Jason, Waddle, Moore, Hopkins, Bucky, Bigsby. I'll tell you, Bigsby is probably out for me. Probably say Hopkins is also out for me. So it comes down to Brian Thomas, JSN, Waddle, Moore, and Bucky for me. So I gotta bring
out of here. Before you go, like, is Hopkins really out for you though? I mean, no Juju this week.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's possible. I do kind of like the other guys.
Yeah. I just wanted to just kind of get your take on that while we're going through.
I think Bucky, I want to start for the flex. I want to start Bucky for the flex. And then for receivers, I'll take. I don't know. I'll take DJ Moore. I'll take Brian Thomas. I like Waddle. He needs to show us first. We've been saying this all season long about Waddle. You know what I'm saying? In terms of, well, to be fair, he's just getting to it back now. Well, not now, but from last week, and he was this close to having a big score. But I just need to see it on the box score still before I can really wreck him for a start sit, especially a touchdown-only league where you need touchdowns. So I think projection-wise, I like Brian Thomas more, and then Bucky Irving to have touchdowns this week. But what do you say, Johnny, to this question?
Yeah, I like
JSN for PPR, but it's like
but like also too, man, like the Rams have done a pretty good job against wide receivers in the slot. So Brian, I'm full of great news for you today, man. I did let you know Amari Cooper wasn't playing, so I did do you a solid day.
Thanks.
Brian,
okay, I got to start Parker Washington instead of him.
Oh, yeah, Brian Thomas for sure. There's just something in my gut that is like telling me that like I just feel like these Miami players are about to get ready to get nuts today, man. Because like I think you can make a very similar. The only argument you could make with DJ Moore versus Waddle is like we've seen DJ Moore do it a couple times this year. We haven't seen Waddle do it. But in all fairness to your point, Waddle also hasn't had his quarterback as well. And like if he's getting close to like one of those big plays, like it's coming. It's coming. And like we said, man, like the Dolphins are playing for their life. So definitely Brian Thomas, definitely Bucky. Or if you really wanted to get really crazy, you could go Brian Thomas, Waddle, and DJ Moore. Just because obviously the Chiefs game, like we hope that the Bucs will be able to put some points on the board and move the ball. But like Kansas City defense, man, like we know them boys is hell. But I think like when you look at this game here, like between like the Dolphins and the Bills, like there's going to be points, like there's going to be points there. And we've talked about like potentially what it looks like in Arizona. I'll give you the combination of Brian Thomas, Waddle, and DJ Moore. And then I would say Bucky Irving is hey, if you feel like it. If you feel like it, man, because like I said, dude, like I just like I'm playing Bucky Irving in a PPR league, but like in a touchdown only league, man, like it's definitely a lot harder because like that's what you're banking on, man, is you're banking on you're banking on the touchdowns and the yards. But Waddle, we know Waddle can get there from a yardage perspective. Bucky Irving, if he doesn't score a touchdown, like it's probably not going to happen for him, right?
Yeah. I just think that, I mean, Rashad White and Bucky could both be used in that game. So that's where I think Baker Mayfield's proven that these guys can still run through, you know what I'm saying, the same type of offense still, even without two of their best weapons in Evans and Godwin. And Monday night is always a little bit more of an equalizer. I tend to like to have someone on a Sunday night or a Monday night game, just because you never know what happens to your overall 1 o'clock, 4 p.m. standard games, to where it's like, oh man, now I wish I had someone now for the 8 o'clock or the Monday night game, at least one player, even a kicker. Even if I had to drop someone to play a kicker on Monday night, I just like having that security, because then it's like I have a chance to make up points if things go south for my lineups.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, Lions-Packers game, like it's just gonna be one of those games where, I mean, if the rain's gonna definitely be playing a factor, it's potentially gonna play a factor. I don't know. I'm just gonna stick to what I know. Sometimes I just don't want to react too heavy to the weather.
That's true.
Because there's been times where we've seen that constantly over time. People just change their lineups out of nowhere because of the rain, and then all of a sudden, like, we see 28 points in the first half, like, and it wasn't and the rain kind of stayed away, and we're like, why did I change my whole lineup for this? You know, and then Jay Glazer officially announcing that Jordan Love is playing this game against the Lions. Quickly, because we somehow missed this game in terms of the slate, the 1 o'clock slate. So I got to add it. It is the Saints and the Panthers. We somehow missed that game. I know.
That was on me, Chief.
If it's the only game you missed, I'm okay with this, honestly. Saints the Carolina Panthers. The over is 42, 43.5, depending on your book. Saints coming in 2-6. The Carolina Panthers 1-7. Look, the Carolina Panthers are this defense is just so bad. Everybody named Mama is pretty much on Kamara and Olave to do work. Their Carr's back for this game. Is there any way the Carolina Panthers can the line is 7 for the Carolina Panthers at home for I should say for the Saints. But in terms of this matchup, is there any way the Panthers can win this game at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. If Jake Delhomme, Steve Smith, and Mushin Muhammad come back in prime, they can absolutely win this game. Other than that, no. Yeah, other than that, no.
Don't forget CMC and Luke Kuechly.
Luke Kuechly and Chris Gamble and there's Julius Peppers. Why not? Like that, if they all come back, they might actually have a shot to win.
That's rough. That's definitely rough. I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm the guy that's taking a Carolina Panthers shot here or two in the season.
You always got you. You know what? I will give you this, man. I will say this. Every week, you always got one, man, and I appreciate that about you. I appreciate that.
I gotta think a little different outside the box. Sometimes it pays off. Sometimes it doesn't. I just have a hard time with Bryce Young, man. I don't know what he is right now. I don't know what he is.
Oh, wait. You want me to tell you what he is? I can tell you exactly what he is. No. I can tell you exactly what he is. God, yeah. He's a college quarterback that had a pro team surrounded by him in college. That's what
my gripe is that the NFL just doesn't develop quarterbacks. Like, there's talk about them now wanting them to stay more in college and stuff, whatever, because we're not going to look to develop them like that. And I just think that's a pure mistake, because you can't always expect a quarterback coming out of college. Even if you draft him in the top 5, we just saw Anthony Richardson. Even if you draft him in the top 5, you can't expect them to just come in and just be this guy. You drafted him because you fell in love with the measurables, and that's my problem when it comes to scouting. This also happens in the NBA too much, where everybody
NBA
falls with the measurables. And when I mean my measurables, is that you fall in love with a guy that's wingspan is freaking
7'3", 7'4",
with his arm,
48-inch vertical. Yeah.
So that's my problem with the current state of this, because Kenny Pickett also got benched and let go from a different team. He's on the Eagles now. Trey Lance is on the Cowboys now after the Niners freaking got an undrafted lucky pick with Brock Purdy. Like, so the trend is there where it's like, yeah, the NFL is being mad lazy in my eyes. But I understand it. But it's also like, if you're gonna scout and draft these guys, you got to make sure they have a pedigree behind them before you do so. Instead of just falling over the measurables and then like, oh, I'm gonna throw this quarterback away because it's like there's already trade talks between other teams about trying to inquire by Anthony Richardson. Because yeah, I would love to have a guy like we can develop like that for Anthony Richardson if someone's just gonna give him away. It's just crazy to think though, because like you can't just be doing that if you're a franchise and then just throwing away 3 or 4 years of possible development with a top 5 QB.
But like not to like go like into this big conversation, but like
yeah, sure,
because like how we do. The problem with that is, man, the problem with everything that you just said is like everybody just seen Josh Allen. Everybody just seen Lamar Jackson. So like when you see like those type of things, man, it makes you think that like a guy that has such raw talent like Anthony Richardson, I can understand how somebody could see that, even though like I didn't and still like really don't, because I never was like, yo, like the Vols, like we got to play Anthony Richardson. Oh my God, what are we going to do? I never was like that. And even for Bryce Young, right? Like the measurables didn't necessarily line up in my opinion. From a size perspective, from a physical perspective, it didn't. It was just he was a winner. And like I said, like he literally had a NFL team around him at the college level. So I think and Kenny Pickett, the Steelers just knew they needed a quarterback. So that is what it is. But like when you see players like that, like Anthony Richardson, like I'll stay there. Like you see guys like Lamar Jackson, you see guys like Josh Allen, and you think, you know what? To quote the internet, I can fix them.
Yikes. 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 That's possible too. That's definitely possible as well. But yeah, I mean, look, this game, this don't really matter. Just play your Saints. Don't matter. Sunday, play your Saints.
Yeah. Kamara and Olave. Have a nice day.
Kamara and Olave, have a great day. If you have any other personal questions, feel free to ask them on our Twitters. But Colts Vikings tonight, Sunday Night Football. Colts 4-4, pretty much in a game where they need to win the Kate Pace in the AFC South and also the rest of the AFC. Vikings coming off a 2-game losing streak, going back home. The over-under is 47.5. Flacco started for the Colts. That ups all Colts receivers across the board, even potentially the tight ends. And this gives Jonathan Taylor even more stability, in my opinion.
Yes, sir.
When it comes to this offense in general. And the Colts feel like they made this move because they overall made this move in terms of, they still think they're a team that is really relevant for a playoff positioning. And they need to see what happens with Flacco and if they can lead them to some more victories. It starts tonight. Vikings side of things, no Dylan Shaw for the left tackle for out of the season for the Vikings. So they went and traded for Cam Robinson for the Jaguars. He gets his first start tonight at left tackle. Vikings. They are a 3-point underdog at home. So yeah, I kind of like this over/under again on Sunday night. These are two teams we don't see enough of, in my opinion, especially the Colts, especially on primetime. So it'll be interesting to see. Hold up. Hold on. Colts are not a favorite. They are a underdog. Colts are a 5.5 dog on the road going to Minnesota. Johnny, what do you say about this game overall? Over-under actually went down to 46.5 now. Damn. I changed this game already.
Yeah. Like just right out of the gate, man, I think like one of the players, I actually talked about him on our show on Tuesday, even kind of before knowing about like this Joe Flacco piece, was Michael Pittman. Don't make me say it. Was Michael Pittman, and I'm still gonna stand on that. Like him, I'm still gonna stand on that, man. Dude, Puka just had 7 for 106 last week. You know what I mean? So like I think like there's definitely an opportunity. Minnesota plays a lot of too high safety. So I think like obviously there's definitely an opportunity for Michael Pittman and Josh Downs this week. I agree with what you said about JT and how this looks a little bit better for him. JT is one of those players as well we were talking about earlier on in the show. Like if you drafted him and you have him, right? Like he's coming back right at the right time, especially if your team has been able to stay above water for sure. And then on the Viking side of things, like I think, it's the same old, right? My man KOC, offensively, like, you know what it is, right? Like they're still going to be able to put points up, man. They're still going to throw the ball. Sam Darnold's been one of the better waiver wire pickups from the quarterback position all year long. Over halfway through the year, he's still standing tall from a fantasy perspective. Aaron Jones was a guy I was completely wrong about. I'm willing to go ahead and die on that hill and say I was completely wrong about him. And then obviously the return of TJ Hawkinson tonight. So I think this game is definitely it's a nice Sunday night game to see. We don't have the mobility from the quarterback perspective, but if you just kind of take a glance backwards, like 2 years ago, I think you had the number 1 and number 2 overall fantasy players being drafted in Jonathan Taylor and Justin Jefferson. So I look forward to the show tonight, man. Obviously I'm going to ride with the Vikings for sure. Them are my boys, man. Like from a visual perspective, like I love everything they have going on. Brian Flores getting after it with Joe Flacco tonight. I think that's going to be interesting to see how he handles the blitz tonight. But yeah, this should be a pretty good game, man. This should be a fun one.
Definitely should be. Gonna be making a nice little Sunday night football single game parlay ticket night.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll have to wait to see what happens. I like the Vikings because they've been on a 2-game losing streak, and I think it's time that they right the ship on this because again, we talked about the NFC North already. They don't want to feel like they want to fall behind in this division. Because if they do, it's like they kind of opens the door for the rest of the teams in the NFC for a wild card playoff positioning. And I don't think you want that. I think the Colts are going to play a better brand of football today. I just don't think it's going to be enough because the Vikings are just going to come into this game with a little bit more of a hungriness to them after losing last 2, after starting the year off 5-0. I just think this is a spot where the Vikings are at home. They're going to look to take care of business. And I just think that as much as, again, we think the Colts are going to be a little bit more revised, I just think it's not going to be enough for this Vikings team as a whole. Monday night game, then we got the props to go over. The Bucs are getting 9 on the road to Kansas City. A lot of injury news to still look over if you're looking at this game closely. Jay McMillan for the rookie for the Bucs. There's also Sterling Shepard. Both of these guys are questionable with hamstring injuries. So it looks like a Kate Otten show. If both of them are somewhat ruled out. Seems like Bucky Irving's also dealing with an injury as well. So that's why the line's probably where it is. I do like the Bucs at 9, but if you're telling me he doesn't have more of his receivers, I'm just going to be taking the Chiefs easily. At home, the over under 46. Like Chiefs are undefeated, but I don't think it's the game where they could get upset if you catch my drift on that. In terms of the Chiefs side of things, another week cream hunt still for all us fantasy people out there. And it comes down to, I think the Chiefs they're just more healthy right now. They're more complete, obviously. And that's the reason why they're undefeated. But the Bucs can still somehow keep themselves in this game. Like I remember a couple Mondays ago against the Ravens that they were looking to also, I think they got a big line as well in that game.
Yeah.
And they ultimately, I think they covered that against the Ravens because the Ravens came. I think
they also had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin at that point too.
They also had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin at that point. No, they actually didn't cover in that game, but it felt like they were in that game for a while. So I feel like
they jumped out to an early lead.
Yeah, they did. They went out to 10-0 lead first quarter, and then the Ravens smacked them for 17. So they're like, "This is our house." What do you say, Johnny? In this game overall? Are we in agreement that the Chiefs are going to take this one easily, or can the Bucs give some bite back?
I don't think they give any fight back, man. I just think like this is just one of these games where, like been saying it all year long, man. Kansas City's defense is definitely they're better than their offense is right now. The Bucs don't really have an answer for the tight end position. I don't think as you kind of look to see like what they've been giving up over the last handful of weeks, like Mark Andrews, it was a get right spot for him. I think it's, the continued get right spot for Travis Kelce. And the Bucs they're not healthy. And I think like if the Bucs were healthy, I would definitely be more interested in the Bucs and the points, but like, I just don't think that they don't have the wide receivers to keep up. And then like the other part of this too, man, is who the hell is going to block Chris Jones? Like, like that guy is like might be single-handedly might be like other than Sexy. I mean, I don't even know, man. I think I might him and Sexy Dexy and my guy Cam, like those guys are hell raisers on the interior. So yeah, I'm gonna shut up and just say I don't see a world in which the Bucks are able to win this game or even keep it close.
Okay, fair enough to say. I mean, everything looks so good on paper for the Chiefs. Like, it makes sense, and they've been finding ways to win. I listened to a radio show the other day, and they were like, I don't like how the Chiefs have been winning. It's like, they're finding ways to win, even though they're not the great offense that we kept on saying for years on end before. It's like, which one do you want? You want teams to win, but then you don't like the way they win.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. Whatever. That's radio people for you. Okay, got through all the games. Now we're gonna go to the prop shop real quickly. The prop shop is 51-43 on the year overall for 54%. We had a 9-5 record for the props last week. So we were definitely more profitable than we were last week for sure. The week prior, and starting to make up for it. So hopefully we can get to at least end of the year goal for me is 65%. I always look to shoot for 65%, so a little bit more lower on the spectrum right now. But hopefully things turn up. But in terms of props, we got 1 p.m. games. We'll have the props for right now, and then we'll have 4 o'clock games. I even got a Monday Night Football one for you. So 1 p.m. props, we got Chad over 48.5 rush yards. This guy can do it just like Gibbs in one play. I think Miami's going to have to find some footing in terms of running the football in this game early on if they don't have any hope. Set up the play action passes, set up the deep shots to Waddle or Hill and stuff like that. I think Achane can easily get this number. I think if you want to go rushing and receiving as well, I think that was like 97.5. You could do that as well. But I'm just going to go with the 48.5 rush yards. I think that's a little too low. Jacoby Myers, over 4.5 receptions. That line was pretty juiced when I took it. It was a minus 168 on FanDuel if you're doing a straight bet. So it's a little bit more juicier if you're going to do a straight bet. So I'd probably just parlay it with like a 2-pick prop or whatever. If you're like playing on underdog drafters, whatever. So I mean, I know the line was definitely juiced on DraftKings as well, but 4.5. I would take 5.5 for Jacoby Myers today as well. In a game where I think the Raiders are going to have to still pass the football to be competitive if the Bengals get out to an early lead. Makes sense. Because Dow, we talked about him a little earlier. I saw the line 42.5 in some books. So double check your books. But I took it at the 44.5 rush yards on FanDuel. I just think this line is a little bit too skewed low. I think it's at least 10 yards under. Should be at least 54.5 just because I think the Cowboys are still trying to find a way to at least run the ball, try to find a way to run the ball early. The game that last week against the Niners, Rico Dowd was ruled out anyway, so it's pretty much just a Dalvin Cook and Zeke show, and we saw how that went. So I think they like Rico as more of an explosive back, and I think he has an opportunity to at least hit this number easily and then some. Next one I got is Elijah Moore, over 3.5 receiving yards. Elijah Moore had 12 targets last week, and he had 8 catches.
That's wild.
In a game where I think that this is going to go a little bit more of a seesaw, slower pace, I still think Elijah Moore can get this number pretty easily. I like Jerry Jeudy at the same number, but I just want to go Elijah Moore, a little bit more safer in terms of playing slot, in terms of keeping the chains moving. So both of those guys are 3.5, but if you like Jerry Jeudy a little bit more, feel free. But I'm going to go Elijah Moore. I still think he has a little bit more juice left in him, per se, and hopefully that trend continues. Going with Jalen Coker. Local guy, Holy Cross in the Northeast area. Matt Holy Cross, college in Mass. I live in Connecticut. So Jalen Coker, little New England special here. Over 37.5 receiving yards. He has dominated the slot since Deontay Johnson, since he hasn't played, and then since they traded him. So this line he should hit pretty easily in a game where the Panthers are going to have to throw the football to stay within arm's length of the Saints this week. I just like Jalen Coker. I think I like what he brings to this offense. And anytime we get a slot receiver against the Saints, I want to attack, and this is what I'm doing. We got Drake May over 197.5 receiving passing yards, and then we have Calvin Ridley on the other side over 4.5 receiving catches. May is simple. We talked about his games that he's played fully. He's over this line relatively with ease. And then Calvin Ridley, he is second in the league in the last 3 weeks for usage for receivers. He overall has had 32 targets the last 3 games. Wild. So over 4.5 catches should spell for Ridley to easily hit this number as well. So I definitely like both of those guys in the same game. We go into the 4 o'clock games. We'll have a few of those as well. And we are first starting with our boy. Well, I should say my boy, honestly, even though I'm not exactly an Eagles fan. It's Jalen Hurts, over 219 pass yards. I just think that a couple bombs to A.J. Brown should do it. Which I'm thinking. couple of bombs to A.J. Brown today. 2 touchdown game for A.J. Brown? Maybe. Could be in the cards. I like Jalen Hurts over 219 pass yards. He's been relatively better through the last 3 games. So I'm just definitely like the spot because even if the Jags give a little fight here, I think Hurts can easily get this number over. He's done this at least in 4 of the last 6 games. So I definitely like Jalen Hurts when it comes to the passing yards. And Green Bay Detroit game, sticking to my guns. I like Jordan Love's over 221 pass yards. Like I said, the only time he hasn't hit this number was with the game last week that he exited early. I like Tucker Kraft over 30 yards receiving because although Packers have all their weapons back, he just seems to find Tucker Kraft. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be you could take anytime touchdown if you want as well. I just didn't take it. It's not on my board. But you can definitely take anytime touchdown as well. I think Tucker Kraft finds a way to get crafty. To get to over 30 receiving yards. And then for Monday Night Football, there's only one. I mean, if you guys want, I'd probably have a few more on here. But it's Cade Otton because even if these receivers go, Cade Otton's massively a target share, massive route participation. He's like top 5 in tight end route participation. So those are always things that you want to see from a tight end perspective. So definitely loving Cade Otton. So that's what we got for the prop shop this week. Looking to improve that record. And then any advice for the locks of the slate this week, John A?
Like I said, man, get your Eagles in, man. Whether it's Nick's on Jalen Hurts from the prop shop. We talked about what the Jaguars give up from the rushing side of things with Saquon Barkley. Though and Kyle Pitts, man. Going back to the well again, like Kyle Pitts, he's been on a tear here. So I'm going back to him. And then like the other places I like, man, like I said, like I'm really intrigued by this by the Miami game and some of the Miami players. But if I had my locks, I definitely would say Saquon, Kyle Pitts, not heavily owned, whether you're playing single or whether you're playing GPP. Those are 2 of my plays, man, that like I'm really, really into and really digging today. So yeah.
I think, like I said, I like the A.J. Brown's a lot of the slate. No, he's a little bit more pricier. Understand it. I think with Brian Robinson out, I think Eckler becomes a little bit more important now, especially for cash games. Just because like Eckler should be getting some dump down passes and stuff like that too from Jalen when he wants to check it down. But definitely like that as well. I think so. I like AJ Brown, like Eckler, and then I think lock of the slate for this. I think I like Chris Olave as well. I mean, everyone's going to be on him and Kamara, but the Panthers are just so horrible. Like, they're supposed to be playing cash games. Like, we don't really.
They're bad, bro.
If you don't play a Kamara and or Olave, it's like and they score like 2 touchdowns or whatever. Like,
you're gonna be hurt.
You know what I'm saying? You're just gonna be kind of behind the sticks. And the 4 o'clock games, there's only 4 of them, so it's like you may want to get at least a player in the 4 o'clock games, but like we just said, AJ Brown or Hurts, whatever. Especially if there's some people going to Lamar, there's some people going to Josh Allen, stuff like that. Hurts can be a nice little, Hurts and AJ Brown stack. Definitely like as well. Any final thoughts before we go, Johnny?
Final thoughts for me. interested in this Denver-Baltimore game as a Steelers fan, obviously, but also too just interested too, right? Just to see, like I think like this game could be like obviously it's going to be really big, but like if somehow Bo Nix is able to come out of this game and win this game, man, like this is going to take this quarterback draft class to a whole nother level, and it could be one that we could be talking about for a lot of years, for sure. And then, like I said, man, earlier in the show, right, like a lot of players, man, that we banked on, big time in August: Cooper Kupp, Jonathan Taylor, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, just to kind of name a few. Like they're all back. Like they're all back now. So like, hey, hopefully your teams have been able to maintain and stay afloat, and hopefully they can get you over the hump and get you into the playoffs as this shit starts to pick up big time here as we hit week 10 flying by, and I'm already getting sad because we're already in week 10, man. But,
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to figure out the NBA prop situation.
Yeah.
As well.
Stay tuned.
But I mean, final thoughts for myself. I mean, look, this is sometimes where it's like trade deadlines are coming up for your seasonal league soon, so you want to start thinking about playoff schedules potentially. And start thinking about players that you should be trying to acquire for your own trade deadline. The NFL trade deadline ends on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So that's where look at your league settings to find out when your trade deadline is for your leagues. I say in terms of because we didn't talk about the Jets at all. They finally got a win against Houston. I'm still not with that. No, not even a golf clap. Just smack him in the face, or just do what Aaron Rodgers shoved to Robert Saleh. Like, just do one of those. But yeah, man, look, I appreciate this show every week. We appreciate all you guys coming out, showing love and support every week, and we always appreciate that. Comment show to our next show, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. We got waiver wire and trade advice, all the things we're break down from this past week of games. Check out our social platforms as well, because we overall will be displaying shorts that Johnny's got for us. And then also, in terms of just interacting with us, get your questions answered. DM, actual tags, let us know. But until then, we'll see you guys in the next show, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll see y'all. Peace.